We want to make sure that everything we do keeps the student at the center of things. And sometimes that means we have to let go of our preferences as adults to make sure that we are focused primarily on the decisions and what's best for students. What's going on, aspiring school leader? I am Dr. Donovan Smalls II, and welcome to Beyond the Classroom. I help aspiring school leaders land their first leadership role, navigate complex dynamics, enhance communication skills, and drive instructional excellence. Today's episode, we are going to be talking about making the hard calls, how aspiring leaders can make tough decisions that put students first. Now, in education, as an aspiring leader, right? Currently, you are most likely a teacher. And as you transition into that first school leadership role, you know that you need to be a student-centered leader, right? We need to make sure that we are making sure that our instruction is student-centered, that everything has to do with keeping students as the primary focus of everything that we do. And as a school leader, once you transition from classroom teacher to school leader, you are now a decision maker. So as a decision maker, what do you do when what's easiest for adults isn't what's best for students? That is a critical question that you might find yourself asking yourself and reflecting on once you step into that first school leadership role. And that's not to say that the teachers or the educators that you will work with as a school leader aren't focusing on students. That's not to say that at all. But it is to say that sometimes we all, right, myself included, I'm not excluding myself from this conversation, sometimes we can get so caught up in paying close attention and in appeasing the preferences of adults that we start ignoring the needs of students. And that's not where we want to be as leaders, as educators, as people who are responsible for increasing student achievement and getting students to where they are academically, socially, and emotionally. We want to make sure that everything we do keeps the student at the center of things. And sometimes that means we have to let go of our preferences as adults to make sure that we are focused primarily on the decisions and what's best for students. And so today I want to go over 5 key areas where you as an aspiring leader, as a future school leader, are going to have to really focus and hone on in when it comes to becoming a better leader and focusing on students first. So number 1 is anchor in student safety and well-being. Now, yes, your primary responsibility is going to be to ensure that the instruction is happening at a level that is going to challenge students, right? We talk about academic rigor. All of that is going to be important. However, the focus should also be, or the main focus should really be, the student safety and their well-being. And I'm talking about psychological safety as well. Are we providing spaces for students to express themselves, to be themselves, to feel a sense of belonging to the school community? And that is going to be a part of your responsibility as a school leader. If students aren't safe, then nothing else really matters. And so as much as we talk about instruction and being instructional leaders, are you the type of leader that provides and helps cultivate a safe environment for your students? Ask yourself, will this decision, because you are a decision maker, will this decision keep students physically, emotionally, and psychologically safe. I think that psychological safety is one of those areas that is extremely important, but is often overlooked. Like when you're in a classroom, is a student safe enough to express how they feel, or are we constantly showing them images, showing them texts, giving examples that have nothing to do with them, and then they're not able to have a safe outlet to express who they truly are. They are not able to see themselves in the learning, right? Psychological safety also means that we are cognizant of the culture that people come from and that we're not trying to assimilate them to what we deem as traditional. Because actually, like, what does traditional actually mean? When you really think about tradition and the way things used to be and how we grew up, right? We're forcing people to assimilate to ways of thinking and ways of acting based on our personal purview, based on our personal experience in life. That's not psychologically safe at all. And so I want you to reflect on that as a leader, right? Are you going to implement disciplinary actions based on how you grew up and your experience as a student, right? You have to make sure that you are being adaptable to the current environment and the current era of students that you currently have. So the bottom line is that as adults, we have to adjust. Students should never pay the price for adult comfort. So again, yes, as an aspiring leader, you'll get into the role. You'll understand that you must take care of your teachers, because when you do that, they are ultimately going to take care of the students. But if you find yourself capitulating to the preferences of adults and ignoring the needs of students, then I need you to do some self-reflection and see why that is and how you can keep students first. Number 2, prioritize instructional impact. Every decision should protect or improve what happens in the classroom. So when you think about the decisions that you will be making, when you think about what it is that you're going to be doing on a daily basis, how is it protecting or improving what's happening in the classroom? I want you to ask, will this help or hinder teaching and learning, regardless of what is being asked, right? Regardless of what you're trying to implement. How is this going to impact? How is this going to help or hinder teaching and learning? And here's the thing, nobody is going to get anything perfect because we are all imperfect. There are things that we're going to do wrong on a daily basis, but if we are learning from those things, we can always work toward improvement, right? And so I want you to keep that in mind. This is not about perfection. It is about progress. And so long-term learning is the goal, even if it's messy in the moment. Prioritizing your instructional impact or the instructional impact of students is extremely important. It is a key cornerstone of being a school leader. And so whatever it is that you are doing, whatever it is that you are facing, whatever program that you're trying to implement, how is it going to impact the instruction that happens in the classroom, which is ultimately going to impact how students learn? Keep that in mind. Is it going to help or hinder teaching and learning? So number 2, prioritize instructional impact. Number 3, protect equity and access. Fair doesn't always mean equal. It means doing what students need to thrive. Here's the thing. If you treat everyone equally, somebody is often going to get the short end of the stick. And as a leader, as a decision maker, as someone who is responsible for putting in policy and procedure and really either perpetuating or eliminating, right, some of the negative tendencies that constantly come up in education, You are somebody that is going to have to lead with an equity mindset. And I know in our society, unfortunately, equity is kind of deemed as a curse word. However, if we're talking about meeting students where they are and then giving them the resources and supports to help them get to where they need to be, that is ultimately what equity is. And so if you're leading from an equity lens, if you are making sure that everyone has access, that's the type of leader that you want to be. So when a decision comes up, I want you to ask yourself, does this level the playing field or is it going to widen the gap? That is a critical question to ask yourself and reflect on. Is this decision that I am getting ready to make, whether it's discipline, whether it's about instruction, right? Even when I'm looking at data, because we know that when I'm looking at data, we can make data say whatever it is that we want it to say. Is this decision, although I might be saying it is a data-driven decision, am I using that as a cover-up to implement some sort of inequitable practice? Is this decision going to level the playing field or is it going to widen the gap? Pushback will come. Pushback will come, but equity work is student work and it keeps students first. Number 3 was protect equity and access. Number 4, use student voice as a compass. If you want to lead students well, start by listening to them. I think that as adults, sometimes we can automatically assume that we know what's best for students, that we know what's best for kids, that they don't know what's best for themselves. However, I disagree with that. I think it's important to amplify student voice by providing them with spaces, safe spaces, to talk to us about what it is that they are experiencing and how we can best support them. If you're making an assumption all the time about what's best for kids, we could be making assumptions that don't best benefit them, that aren't student focused, that aren't student led. And here's the thing, as a leader, I think it's important to provide, right, to proactively provide the space and the opportunities for people to voice their opinion, not to necessarily be passive in our approach to student voice and amplifying student voices by just saying, hey, my door is always open. I think that sometimes we need to go to them. And that could be as casual as just having a conversation during lunch duty, during bus duty, right? Those informal situations, walking throughout the hallway with a student, just checking on them to see how their day is going and how you might be able to support them in a different way. All of that is extremely important when it comes to amplifying student voice. I don't want you to just think that it has to happen in some formal way. We have to have a committee. I think it's important to have student-led committees where they can voice their opinions, right? Like the student council, things of that nature. But I think that we miss opportunities on a daily basis to just converse with them as human beings and not look at them as children and we know what's best for them all the time. Because they do have voices and they will speak up for certain things, but we have to be responsible for providing them with safe and brave spaces. So number 4 was use student voice as a compass. And when you use student voice as a compass, it will guide you in the right direction. And lastly, number 5, model courageous leadership for students. The bold moves you make teach students what leadership really looks like. Everyone is watching your example, even more than they are listening to your words, right? We can do so much talking, but what are our actions truly showing other people? That's the key. It's about action. Leadership is about action. And as a leader, you must keep that in mind. Like, what are you actually showing people as it relates to the decisions that you are making, your presence, the interactions that you are having? So ask yourself, am I showing students how to stand up for what's right, even when it's hard? So when there's a decision to make, Are you the type of person that's going to do some self-reflection and make sure that this is protective of students? Not saying that it doesn't challenge them to be better, but is this going to strip them of their dignity? Is this going to make them feel less than? And that's what we don't want to do. And it's easier said than done. I think sometimes we take for granted the opportunity to make student-led choices, to make student-centered choices, rather. It's easy to say that, but when you get into a leadership role and you're leading adults, we have to make sure that we are still prioritizing students and making sure that the adults, the teachers that we lead, are also a primary focus, right? It has to be both. I think two things can be true, but we have to ultimately make sure that everybody is on the same page toward making decisions that are best for students. Remember, students are watching, and your courage as a leader becomes their blueprint. You never know who is watching you and is being inspired by your journey to then maybe become a school leader, to become an educator. And even if they don't want to go into the industry of education, maybe they are just inspired by the way that you carry yourself, by your journey, by the way that you treat people, that they want to do things the same way in terms of the principles and the core values that you carry yourself with, and take it into their future role, their future industry. You never know. So do not take these opportunities for leadership for granted. People are watching you. People are following you. Whether you believe it or not, you are somebody that is going to carry a ton of influence. And I'm a firm believer that when you have influence, you must make sure that you are stewarding it in a way that is beneficial for other people, and that is at the center of it is a heart of servitude. And so keep that mindset as you go throughout your school leadership journey. Make sure that you are making decisions, those tough decisions, that are best for students. So today we went over our topic, which was making the hard calls, how aspiring leaders can make tough decisions that put students first. And number one, anchor in student safety and well-being. Number two, prioritize instructional impact. Number three, protect equity and access. Number four, use student voice as a compass. And number five, model courageous leadership for students. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to share it with someone else. Make sure that you also subscribe to this channel so that you do not miss a message. As always, I hope you have a great week of teaching, leading, and learning. Take care.
I love that you talked about mindset, because mindset is extremely important as you become a school leader. And so that leads us into our second complexity, which is navigating the learning curve, right? Whenever you are promoted to the next level in your career, you will always begin as a novice. So it doesn't matter that you are an effective classroom teacher, you have raving reviews from your students. Becoming a school leader is a different skill set. And so we need to start teaching aspiring school leaders that it takes a level of emotional intelligence and self-awareness to understand just because you got results doesn't mean you're going to get results here. You need to work at this. And so one of the things I constantly think about is the fact that the learning curve can be steep. As a teacher, I'm walking into the building with a set schedule. As a leader, I might have a set schedule if I'm planning properly, but it might immediately become obsolete as soon as I walk in the building. The learning curve that I had to navigate was I'm walking in the building with my bags on. Teachers are firing questions at me. I haven't even made it to my desk yet. How am I navigating that? With being tactful.